Hello and welcome. Today we are taking a look at my new Swiss K31. Specifically, what I want to talk about is where I got this and what exactly I got. I got this from Simpson Limited. They are one of the very few primary sources for Swiss K31s that are actually getting in new stock of them directly from Switzerland. I know Edelweiss also sells them, but I don't usually see specifically Swiss K31s for what I paid for this one, which was $500 from Edelweiss. Now Simpson, they get in a batch every couple of months it seems, and they sell them by the individual rifle. So I knew exactly what this was getting into it, and for me this is a shooter as well as to have a Swiss K31. And for $500 in 2022 from a primary source, that ain't bad. It's much better than you can find on Gunbroker, and these used to be way cheaper, but those days are long gone. So tell me where else you can find one for less than that, and I will happily shop there instead. But as of now, it seems Simpson's is the best place to find one of these if you're looking for one. So what did I get from them? This is a all numbers matching example. It came very well packaged, lots of packing peanuts. The bolt was wrapped separately. It shipped out the day I ordered it or the next day, and it was here within 2 days. So when I first pulled this out of the box, it definitely needed some little bit of conservation. The stock was very dry, and the finish on the butt pad was exceedingly worn. I don't know how much of it's FUD lore, but I have read that the reason Swiss rifle stocks tend to be in kind of rough shape is because the soldiers would use it to kick the snow off their boots, which may or may not be true, but I think it's funny and seems anecdotally plausible. So anyway, the stock itself was very dry, but a couple of layers of boiled linseed oil and she came out a lot better. Still not perfect, still definitely a shooter grade for me, but I am very happy with it. There's a small crack right here, but not too bad. And then there was a crack on the very end. So regarding the metal, there were a couple of rough spots here on the end, some small rust bloom spots underneath the handguard, some surface rust on like the trigger guard. All of that cleaned up super easily with some very fine steel wool. The butt plate was definitely the worst of the metal. It had a significant amount of actual rust and a little bit of pitting, but it's really the only part that had any actual pitting, and it also cleaned up well, although it's definitely missing basically all of its blue. Also, it did have a true tag, which is neat. The bore was pretty good. It did come with a muzzle cover as well as a sling. And the sling itself was also very dry, but a little bit of ballistol brought that out pretty nicely. So now it's less dry. So getting into the mechanics of this one, it is a Swiss straight pull, which is super neat and interesting. I believe the serial number puts this one in 1945 production, which is kind of cool. World War II era, though obviously it's Swiss with their notorious neutrality. So yeah, there are a couple of spots, boiled linseed oil on the stock, a little bit of fine steel wool, and a little bit of ballistol, and she came back nicely. Overall, I'm very happy with my experience. Honestly, more than anything, I'm happy with my experience dealing with Simpson. Like I said, their import mark, just small things like that just kind of shows that they're not just trying to spit these out as fast as they can and make maximum profit, but like they actually seem to care. I called to actually order a different one before I ordered this one, and the guy that I spoke to like went and picked the rifle up off the rack and was sitting there on the phone with me looking it over, and it was telling me, oh yeah, like he was pointing out things that I had missed in the listing and basically told me, hey, like you should probably wait and buy a different one. Like it was the weirdest sales experience that I've ever had, but I was extremely grateful that he was like more than upfront about the one that I was looking at. I was very happy to have an honest interaction and experience with a company selling guns because that's shockingly rare. So yeah, overall my experience was exceedingly positive. The rifle itself, I'm very happy to have. I think the straight pull action is very satisfying. This rifle did not come with a bayonet. However, I already had this particular example. Let's do this. Oh yeah. One thing about Swiss rifles is their bayonets are just wicked looking. So yeah, that's what I got. Last thing before you leave, this is actually a 3D printed charger There's not a whole lot of stuff like that that's mil-SERP adjacent and also 3D printing adjacent, but the stuff that is, I find super fascinating. So, hope you enjoyed this look at my new Swiss K31, and I will see you in the next one.